Well, hey guys, today is the 18th. Yippity doo dah. Yeah, no, we did a hike today, and I've had two already. I'm on my third, and then I'm going to take a nap. Anyway, want to talk about the phenomenal night that we had last night. But before I can say anything, the story starts with Chris. And so, what I am going to do is kind of extend this over into the Chris kind of direction that we need to be. Oh, look at that. Arizona Squatch technology. But anyway, you're up, Chris.
Am I on?
You're on.
Well, first off, let me say hi, Kathy. I don't even know where to start. It's an interesting and very heavy 24 hours of my life. I was on my way up from Phoenix to meet Kevin up here on the rim, and as I was on the 260 just before Rim Road, I got a phone call that my father had passed away back east. It was not unexpected. He was in hospice, but we didn't know when, and obviously I was troubled that I wasn't there, but that's really neither here nor there. So I had pulled over and I made some phone calls, and I was good with it. He was very ill, and it was a blessing that he passed. So I get up onto the rim, up the 300, and I'm making my way back on the secondary forest roads on my way in here. And as I got to the junction of two of the roads, I had this is just what it was, man. I had the most direct, deepest mind speak ever projected into my head, and it was a very deep voice. It was a very deep voice that said to me, "We mourn with you the loss of your father, and we celebrate that he is with the Creator now." That's exactly what was said to me. This wasn't some thought in my brain. This was literally a voice projected into me. And I was very rattled. It was very deep, very touching. I've been a little emotionally raw anyway. And a minute after that happened, I'm driving down and I see Kevin walking up the trail as I'm driving. And I hadn't been very emotional about it. I was at peace with the whole thing, but the depth of that communication, it was very touching and very powerful. And I shared it with Kev, and I'm right where I need to be, where I want to be. There's a lot of things that come with this. This is my mother passed away almost a year to the day, and last year, and this is a new chapter in mine and my siblings' lives without having our parents around, and it's part of the cycle of life, and it happens to everyone. I was very blessed to have them for as long as I did, and I came up here, and I think I was a lot more tuned into what was going on internally and staying out of this thing, and as a result, for me, I'll let Kevin go into the details of last night, but it was a powerful night, and with a lot of deep communication, and very soulful and very spiritual, and it helped to recenter and reground me to when I leave here tomorrow morning to go back and face some of the challenges ahead of trying to get through the funerals and burials and moving on with life, whatever that looks like. It's all good, God is good, and I'm just blessed. I'm blessed to have this outlet, and I'm blessed to have this type of thing in my life that it keeps me grounded, with my dear friend with me. There's no place I'd rather be right now. Unplugged, no signal, just me and nature, and surrounded by some of the forest people, and going through this like in a healthy, good way. So that's really all I have to share on it. That's it, brother.
Well, to go into to last night, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to walk over to where we were sitting, because it'll make things, a lot easier to understand than saying, well, over here I saw this, and over here I saw that. So we'll just kind of take a short little stroll. Actually, we'll go this way. It's easier. Okay, this big downed pine tree right here is going to be key. One of the key areas of explaining what had happened last night. Back down over there in that direction is where my old gift stump was, or is. Just don't do the gift stump thing anymore. Or the gifting. And over here we got the Ark, and Chris calls it the mini Ark. I call it the life raft. Tundra and a Tacoma. Great trucks, both of them. Alrighty. I'm going to be sitting in the sun here for a few minutes. Just try and bear with me a minute. Thank you. All right. So Chris and I are both sitting here. And this is pretty much when I stay here. I used to have my tent set up over there. This log right here, you can see it ran down a ways, so I used to sit about right here and view that whole area. Well, so last night, let me get a little stable here. If you see between these two trees right here, and in the background there's a downed log, and then there's another downed log kind of almost perpendicular to it, kind of 45-degree angled to each other. And there's also a stump sitting over there. So I don't know how visible all that is. But so these first two trees right here, aspen and an aspen, and the aspen on the left, there's a pine tree behind that. Well, just to the right of that pine tree, back where that log is, just the sun had just set down below the trees, but it was still plenty bright out. And I looked over there, and there was an individual over there, and I think he was squatting down. If you can see where the stump is to the right of this first pine tree over here, there's a stump right in the center. Between that stump and the pine tree, back behind the downed log, is where he was at. I could see his head, I could see his neck, I could see his shoulders, and part of his torso, and he was massive. When Chris went over there this morning while I was sitting here, it was easily 4 times the body, 4 times the width of the shoulders of what Chris was. Guy was huge. 1,200, 1,500, 1,800 pounds. I don't know. He's just massive. But anyway, so I'm looking at him, and I tell Chris, I said, Chris, come over behind me and squat down, to get my vantage point. And he did, and he came over, and he goes, oh my God, I see him. And when the moment Chris could see him, he started to rock just a little bit. He'd rock left and he'd rock right. And he kept doing that for a little bit, and then he'd squat down a little more, and then he'd rise up a little more. Well, and then I noticed to the right of him, on the right side of that stump, I'm pretty confident there was another one there, and then farther over here, there was another one. So there was 3 of them that were over there. The other 2 weren't near as big as the first one, and it was just amazing. It was probably 10, 15 minutes, that was just sitting there watching him. And, then it finally got dark enough that you could see him move off. And all back throughout over there was twinkle lights and little flashes of green and little flashes of orange. But okay, so now that log that I pointed out when we were walking over here, that's this big pine tree over here. At the end where the root ball is, where I told you this, to pay attention to this tree, I kept seeing eye glow over there. And, it was bright, it was green. I would have to say his eyeballs had to have been the size of tennis balls, from vantage point from here to there. That would be my guess. But it just kept watching them, and just the light show that was going on back there, and the movement. I mean, we could see them running around. It was one of the better nights I've had out here, but it is pretty atypical for this area. But with the mix of the movement and the eye glow and the twinkle lights and the green glows and the orange glows and so I'm just going to pan you around. And this entire perimeter of this camp, it didn't matter where you were looking. Sorry about that. I'm looking at the ground. Don't want to look at the ground. But, no matter where you're looking out around this perimeter, you would see movement, and you would see the little lights, and every now and then you'd hear, like a clack sound or footsteps. We were getting footsteps right over here 2 or 3 times last night. That it was just a madhouse of activity. The atmosphere was euphoric, happy, energetic. It was just, this was the place to be. This was the place to be. Well, early on in the night, Chris gets mind speak, and he looks at me and he says, somebody is going to be here later. I'm like, okay, well, I know a lot of them up here, so it's, that's pretty easy statement to make. amount of time that I've spent up here, I've met quite a, dealt with quite a few of them. I'll say met quite a few. So he got that. And then all of a sudden, later on in the night, as all this activity's going on, the atmosphere absolutely changed. It was like, now it's serious. A commanding presence was here. And how I will equate it is a bunch of third graders running around the classroom because the teacher had to go to the office for something, and they're just running around madhouse. And all of a sudden the teacher's at the door and coming in, and everybody shuts up and sits down and behaves like nothing's been going on. That's how it felt last night. And it was Eadingen. Eadingen is Indy's mate. Indy died in 2021, but his mate, she's still kicking, and she was here, and got a little communication from her. The first one I got, I thought for a second that she was just talking out loud, because I kind of looked over towards Chris. I said, yeah, what she said. And he kind of looked at me weird, and, we went, things going on a little bit. And then I feel like I've got, I asked Chris, I said, is there anybody standing behind me? And I don't see anybody. Why? And I said, because something has got a hold of my head. And then he kind of shakes his head. He goes, Kevin, there is a hand. I can't see anything else, but I see a hand. And he said, it's like thing, I could feel the pressure on my head, and what it felt like to me is that somebody was doing this on my head. A little bit of weight to it, but absolutely having the sensation of somebody doing that. At the same time, Chris is sitting there looking, and there's nothing else there but a hand on my head. How the hell do you try and explain this? I don't know how, but it happened. It was real. But, so moving on, Chris had gotten a little mind speak from Eadingen. And about the same time I did too. And I was told that your heart is pure, hold the course. And Chris had got something to the effect of honor your father's memory, or something to that effect. And it was pretty profound. And then she'd backed off. The atmosphere kind of settled out again, wasn't so serious. Still seeing twinkle lights around, still seeing eye glow around, still seeing movement all over the place. And, so we decided, well, let's walk back over, towards the camp. And, I think it was like 10:15. I was like, let's just call it a night. And I went to bed and put my earplugs in because of the snoring. And I slept like a rock last night. Chris had a little rougher night last night, but he got up. I don't know, it was like 7:30 is when he finally woke up. We did about a little over, or right about a 3-mile hike today. We'll just call it a 3-mile hike. Got wore out. I'm tired. Came back. We had something to eat. I'm enjoying a couple of drinks, and I'm going to go take a nap and get well rested for tonight, and then I go home tomorrow till Monday. But anyway, so that is the gist of what happened last night. We had actual rock solid, and I'm calling it a daytime, even though the sun was set down behind the trees, it was still light enough out. You know, so that between that one and the one I was talking about in a previous video from my first day up here, that I was 95%. Now I'm kind of back in that area, and I'm now 100% convinced that that was a daytime sighting. So, you know, been up here for 3 days and had 2 daytime sightings, and countless last night. You know, it's just all over the place. So now we're up to 12 daytime sightings. Phenomenal. But I'm just coming over the 20-minute mark. So I'm gonna call this one. But as always, I love each and every one of you. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to me ramble. Please be good to yourselves. Be good to those around you. Please, please, please pay close attention to your surroundings and stay safe. As always, peace out.